Welcome to Worthwhile Watches. I'm Rob. Today we're looking at a new model from WM Watch, the WM207. This is a dressy watch with an interesting icy silver-white dial and nice specs and build quality for the price. WM Watch is a relatively new company, but they seem to really be listening to customer feedback, making improvements, and coming out with some interesting watches. So let's take a closer look at this WM207. First of all, I want to disclose that WM Watch did send this watch in free of charge, but I'm not receiving any payment for this review beyond the watch itself. This will not influence my opinion in any way, and they had absolutely no input into this review at any point. This brand used to be called Welly Merck. They actually reached out to me a few months ago, but at the time their offerings were much more limited and really nothing stood out to me, and I wasn't crazy about the name Welly Merck. But when they reached out again recently, they had a larger variety of options and a new name and logo. The new WM Watch branding and logo is a big improvement in my opinion, and it really seems that they are listening and adapting to feedback. So I decided to take them up on their offer and have a look at this white dial dress watch and see what WM Watch is all about. The full retail price of this watch is around $99 on the WM Watch website, and it's also available on AliExpress. I asked WM Watch if they could provide a discount code for viewers, and from now until the end of February, you can use the code WW5OFF for 5% off on the WM Watch website. I'll add a link in the description. Prices will vary throughout the year with sales and promotions, so keep an eye out for a good deal if you're interested. This being my first WM watch, I wasn't sure what to expect as far as packaging. The watch arrived in an outer cardboard box with a user manual, a bracelet adjustment guide sheet, and a split-pin bracelet adjustment tool. This is the first time I've seen this particular tool, and I really like it. It is all plastic and only comes with one supplied tip, but it's sturdy and solid without a lot of wiggling around. But the really cool feature is this spring-loaded base plate. With a lot of these adjustment tools, it's kind of hard to keep the bracelet link lined up exactly right while trying to push the pin straight out. But this spring-loaded plate allows it to adjust for the thickness of the link. I used it to adjust this bracelet and it worked very well. It's definitely better than the metal wobbly ones I've seen coming supplied with other brands recently. I'm going to hang on to this and try using it for various sized bracelets. I think it'll work really well. The watch itself came in this really nice little zip-up case. I haven't seen a case quite like this from other brands. It's compact and seems to be good quality. Inside, the watch is well protected by this foam insert with raised walls on each side. The foam is reasonably dense and appears to be nice quality. This case is pretty similar in size to these watch pod type cases. It seems to do a very good job of protecting the watch. I'm actually considering trying this case out as a travel case and seeing how it does. The case and bracelet finishing is also very impressive. The case is 316L stainless steel. It's brushed on the top and bottom surfaces and polished everywhere else, including the bezel. The polishing is nice and even, very reflective, and I don't see any visible flaws in the polished surfaces. The transitions from brushed to polished areas are clean and crisp. The crown is precisely machined, well finished, and signed with the WM logo. I have to say, I'm impressed with the case finishing. The crystal is a flat sapphire with anti-reflective coating. I'm not sure what type of coating or how much was used here, but it seems to be a clear coating without any colored tint. The clarity is very good and glare hasn't been an issue at all. The bracelet is brushed on the top and bottom and polished on the sides of the links. The links and end links are solid, and the double push-button clasp is all milled. We don't get a toolless micro-adjust clasp at this price, but it does have 6 micro-adjust holes, which give you more micro-adjustment travel than the length of a link, so you should be able to get this watch to fit without any problem. The links are nicely machined, but the end links could be machined a bit more crisply. They have those sort of soft corners that don't match the crisper machining found on the case and actual bracelet links. The clasp is also cleanly finished with brushed top and side surfaces and polished bevels along the edges, and a WM etched into the surface. These are just the letters W and M and not the actual WM watch logo. I'm not sure if they'll change that in future versions, but it is a little bit strange. The bracelet to case fit is pretty good, but there is a bit of wiggle there. Also, the end link isn't quite flush with the underside of the case, so a bit of the end link sticks out underneath the lug. When I first looked this watch over, I thought the spring bars might not be seated properly, but they were securely attached. Those end links just stick out a little underneath. It's not an issue when wearing the watch, but maybe in future versions they can refine the case to bracelet fit, make it a bit tighter, and match the contours of the case a bit better. The solid case back is screw down and sterile with simple radial brushing. It's well done, but there's not much interesting to see here. What is more interesting is the dial. This model currently comes in 4 colors: silver white, sky blue, deep blue, and forest green. The white dial is my favorite of these. Right away, this dial reminded me of the Grand Seiko White Birch, or the Snowflake, or the Seiko Baby Snowflake SARX055, which I used to own. The size and style remind me of some of the older Seiko 5 models with 37mm cases, like this Seiko SNK369. But looking closer at this dial, it is a bit different from the White Birch and Snowflake textures. On this silver-white model, the patterns evoke images of a partially frozen lake, with chunks of ice floating across the frigid water. Or a winding winter mountain trail, with snowy peaks and icy ground. Icicles sparkling like frosty diamonds in the gleaming snow. The silvery white textured dial and gleaming indices certainly conjure wintry images of snow and ice. The hands are simple, highly polished stick hands. Legibility is not usually a problem, but sometimes they can be a bit difficult to quickly find in certain lighting conditions against the silvery dial. The dial options with darker colors will likely offer a bit more contrast if this is a big issue for you. The indices are nicely faceted with a line cut along the center of each one. The 12 o'clock index is wider with angled sides, giving it a more substantial appearance. These cuts and facets create a lot of light play around the perimeter, and combined with the shimmering dial below, there is a lot of visual interest here. The dial components appear to be very good quality. I can't see any flaws anywhere while wearing this watch. Under the macro lens, the hands and indices are very clean. The printing is sharp and crisp. This dial is more impressive than I was expecting under the macro lens. 2 lines of text appear at the bottom of the dial, balancing the WM logo, which looks nice in my opinion. The text is very small and almost unnoticeable in certain light, getting lost in the dial texture. 100 meters of water resistance should be plenty for a watch like this, and the quartz movement should allow it to be ready to go whenever you need it. So this watch has good specs and an interesting dial. Let's talk about how it wears. This is a dress watch, and it's on the smaller side. The case measures 36mm with a thickness of only 9.4mm. Lug to lug is 43.5mm, though the male end links push that out to about 49.5mm. The bracelet does drop straight down, helping it to still fit a wide range of wrist sizes. The case has a nice curvature to it, so it hugs the wrist. The slim case should allow it to easily slip under a cuff, and at only 108 grams, sized for my 6 3/4 inch wrist, it's never a burden to wear. Even though this is a small watch, with all the links, it should fit up to an 8-inch wrist. The lug width is 19 millimeters, and the bracelet tapers only slightly to 18 millimeters at the clasp. The clasp is just under 20 millimeters wide. For a dress watch like this, I would prefer to see a bracelet with a bit more taper. I find this bracelet looks a bit chunky compared to the head of the watch, but overall it's a good quality bracelet and this watch wears very comfortably on the wrist. This watch also works very well on a leather strap, though you will need a 19mm strap for this case. Here it is on an aftermarket strap that I use on my 38mm Oris Big Crown. This watch does look nice on a leather strap. And now it's time for a Loom test. But there really isn't a lot of Loom on this watch, and I don't expect it to last too long. There are only small slivers of Loom on the hands and no Loom anywhere on the dial. So let's see how it does. As you can see, the Loom fades very quickly and is barely hanging on after 20 minutes. Loom is often not a high priority with dress watches, and that seems to be the case here. I would like to see better Loom, but many dress watches have no Loom at all, so at least this one has something. One reason this watch wears so nice and slim is that it uses the Seiko VH31 quartz movement. Unlike most quartz movements that tick once per second, the VH31 ticks 4 times per second. This gives the second hand a smoother sweep and eliminates the frustration of a quartz movement that misses every minute marker as it ticks around the dial. This is a no-date movement and is rated for accuracy of plus or minus 15 seconds per month. I have a few watches with the VH31, and I've found them all to be consistent, accurate, and reliable. And that 4 tick per second sweep is very nice to see. So now that I've had a good look at my first WM watch, I have to say that I'm impressed. The packaging was nicer than I expected, the specs for the price are great, the finishing is excellent for a budget watch, the dial is interesting, very nicely finished, and offers something a bit unique. The bracelet quality puts many more expensive watches to shame, and the movement is accurate and reliable. The main areas I can find room for improvement are with the end link fit, the bracelet taper, and the Loom. Some people will also prefer an even lug width. 18mm would have offered most people more strap options, and people with smaller wrists might appreciate female end links to reduce that overall lug-to-lug measurement. But it's great to see a new watch brand that's listening to feedback and really trying to pay attention to the details and offer a quality product for a fair price. Maybe I was a bit too quick to dismiss the Welly Merck brand initially, but I'm glad to be getting to know WM watches now, and I'm looking forward to seeing more new, unique, and interesting offerings from them this year, like the upcoming WM207 Four Seasons collection. Do you have any experience with WM watches? I'd be very interested to hear what you think of the brand. Let me know in the comments. As always, I want to thank you all for watching. I'm really going to be trying to grow this channel this year, so please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. And no matter what you have on your wrist, no matter how many times it ticks per second, make your day worthwhile.